You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name and politics is our game. And we will be doing politics this evening because we have as our guest State Rep Shawn Ford, who is running, well, we think he's running for the 7th Congressional District Democratic primary. I got to say, and he will say, that is contingent on the current incumbent in that office, Congressman Danny Davis, doing what everybody thinks he's doing and what he seems to be saying he's doing, which is running for president of the Cook County Board. If that happens, then Shawn Ford is definitely in the race, right? For 7th Congressional District.
I'm in the race if Congressman Davis files October 26th for president of the county board. I'm looking forward to it.
If he follows what?
Files for...
oh, he files, okay.
Yes, October 26th is the deadline.
Filing date.
Yes.
And that's when he's, okay, and then you're out there gathering petitions, but you can't wait, right?
That's right.
Right now?
Right now.
We're taping this on August 9th. How many signatures you got?
Oh, I don't know as of yet. We have to gather them, and
you don't need that many, but like about 1,000 or something. 800.
We may need 800 to 1,200.
To be safe, you're going to get like 2,500 or something.
No, we have to get at least 10,000 for
10,000?
Congress. You know, there are people out there that would challenge.
They would.
Yes, so we have to be prepared.
Well, of course they would, because Barack Obama, when he ran for state senator on the South Side in the Democratic primary, he challenged and knocked off all his opponents, right?
That's right. With the incumbent, she was actually the incumbent. He knocked her off the ballot.
So when Barack Obama, a lot of people don't realize this, when Barack Obama, running for president of the United States, won the Iowa caucuses, essentially that was the second contested race he ever won.
Right.
And people don't realize because in '96, in the Democratic primary, he knocked off all his challengers.
All of them. You better not get in the way of President Obama.
Including Alice Palmer, right?
That was the one.
Who had mentored him to come and run when she thought she was going to be able to win the congressional race. Then
she lost, something happened, and she wanted to come back and get her seat.
He said no. He says no backseats, as we might say when kids are playing. You can't go back because he said he was ready and he was fired up and he was ready to go.
And he invested so much, he couldn't take it back.
All right, so Shawn Ford. Race. Is that an issue in the 7th Congressional District race?
Well, I would say not. I mean, I think that people talk about race being an issue, saying that whites won't vote for blacks and only blacks vote for blacks, but that's not an issue anymore. I mean, we learned in this presidential election, I think it's unfair for anyone to say that a white person won't vote for a black and they're going to only vote for their own kind. Because
Barack Obama transcended race, right?
I think he helped. You know, it's been transcending for a very long time with Kennedy, with Dr. King, and that's what this country has been working toward, a more perfect union.
Race.
Yes.
Yeah. Did he do it with Skip Gates, Professor Gates? Did Barack Obama lapse into the old racial attitudes then?
You know, I think everything happens for a reason, and so we could think that situation and we learn from it. You know,
what did we learn?
We learned that we can all come to the table to negotiate and talk about things
we can all have
need
a beer? To. This is your local beer ad, folks, coming to you from Public Affairs. Go out and no, just kidding. But all right, so what did we learn on that other than Barack could sit down and bring Gates together with, was it Officer Crowley, right? The Boston policeman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we learned that, you know, if we want to deal with issues, whether it's a black and white issue, that we could do that in America, and we don't have to ignore the issue.
But Barack Obama made a mistake when he called it racial profiling. I mean, here were the police. It was reported that somebody was in Professor Gates' house. They didn't know who it was. They find that the person who reported mistakenly saw who turned out to be Professor Gates trying to break into his own house because he was locked out. But nobody was doing racial profiling. In fact, the police were trying to protect the home of somebody who was an African American, namely Professor Gates. He reacted apparently, we don't know all the facts, but from what we know, he reacted somewhat badly. Maybe the policeman made a mistake to, even though he was reacting badly, to arrest him. Maybe he should have just shrugged it off. But it had nothing to do with racial profiling. When Barack Obama said without knowing the facts, which he said, I don't know the facts, and then he said the police acted stupidly. You know, that was a mistake on Barack Obama's part, right?
Yes. You know, I think that we learned.
Yes, it was, right?
I think it was a mistake on his part to react if he wasn't going to stick by his statement and defend his statement.
Yeah, I mean, you know Barack Obama, probably, right?
I don't know him.
I know him. He's been on this show. He was on this show 5 times.
Right.
He's a person who thinks carefully, and then he speaks, and he stakes out a position. I was astounded that Barack Obama would say, I don't know the facts, but, and then he'd expound on it.
Right. So I think that, that's one of the things that we practice in my office is if you really don't know the facts and you need to speak to the media, you say, I'll have a press conference at 5 o'clock. We'll deal with it then. But you don't just speak off the cuff about something like that.
Right, because you want to formulate your viewpoints.
Right.
You want to know the issues. I think it was Obama who said he distinguished himself from his competitors in that tough Democratic primary where he did have a contested primary for the U.S. Senate in 2004. He said he knows the issues, he takes a position, he speaks out.
Right, right. I mean, that's what we've been doing even when we had the problems with the pirates. He stayed silent, he gathered the information, he took care of business, then the president spoke.
Took a few shots, killed the pirates,
right.
The ones that they had to. The guy, was it more than one who was being held? I can't remember.
More than one. Well, the leader of the ship, the captain of the ship.
Just the leader was
right.
being held?
Because
he jumped off, he got free, so forth, it all worked out.
He allowed all of his employees and the other crew to leave. He negotiated for his crew.
Does Shawn Ford know the issues? I mean, you've been a state rep for 3 years now, right? You're 37 years old.
Yes,
right?
yes.
You think you know the area. You ran twice before. So that's a part of the 7th Congressional District, which is a good part of the western portion of the loop, or the loop, and then going west. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes. You think you know the 7th Congressional District?
I think I know the 7th.
You know the issues? You know the economy? Is that important that you know about the economy?
It's very important.
Is that important to the 7th Congressional District?
Yes, very.
Let's go back to the fall of 2008. If you had been in Congress at that time and you had been a representative instead of Congressman Danny Davis representing the 7th, and the Bush administration and Nancy Pelosi and other leaders came to you and said, we need a $700 billion bailout, would you, LaShawn Ford, would you have supported that bailout of the financial sector?
Well, I'm looking at the financial bailout right now, and I want to make sure that, we're only spending 20-some% of the bailout money right now. Would I have supported it? We have to do something to get this country back on track. So, there's been a lot of studies and that's been put into this, and Congress approved it. I can't say that I would have supported it or I wouldn't have supported it, because
you don't want to waffle here. That's the one thing. I keep coming back to Barack Obama, and I do that. Folks know that I do that often because he's a pretty smart guy, and what he said. We can have people take different positions on the war. He took one position, others took others, even in the Democratic
primary.
What
I would do?
He said, well, we absolutely can't have in the U.S. Senate is somebody who waffles. Okay. And I think he would say to you, LaShawn Ford, well, we absolutely can't have in the 7th Congressional District, representing that district in Congress, is somebody who waffles. So what would you have done if you were there?
I would have made sure that this bailout would benefit the 7th Congressional District and the country. If it could not bring the country out of a recession, on the right track, then I cannot support it. If it can help the 7th Congressional District from the lake through the west side of Chicago, all the way through Proviso, Maywood, Bellwood, then I can support it.
Based on what you knew at the time, what would you have done, yes or no?
We were in trouble,
So that means
the
you
president
would have voted for it?
I would have voted for it.
There you go. So now we're making progress. Now we're getting answers here. I got to get answers, or else I'll lose my job here. You don't want me to lose my job. We got enough unemployment in this country, 9.4%.
And that's what we hope that this bailout and this stimulus package does.
But in Illinois, it's 10.3%. And what is it in the 7th
It's
Congressional?
not 10.3%.
Yes, it is. The state of Illinois, unemployment, 10.3%.
Right now, it's 7-point-something%, and it's projected to go to 9-point-something by the year 2010. It's not at 10% yet, is it?
No, back up. We're taping the show on August 9th, 2009. One thing I know, because it just was all over the papers yesterday, the national unemployment rate actually moved down from 9.5% to 9.4%.
Right.
Moved down, 9.4% nationally. Illinois, 10.3%. 7th Congressional District, my guess is it's higher than 10.3%. Do you know what the unemployment rate is in the district you want to represent?
Well, it's extremely high, and it's hard to give that rate because it has Inglewood, it has west side of Chicago, Austin, Garfield, and Maywood, and these areas are not included in that unemployment rate because we have ex-offenders in those areas. And the unemployment rate that we have now is totally inaccurate. I believe that it's much higher than.
Why wouldn't we count ex-offenders?
Well, you have to. Well, right. They're
so
looking
why wouldn't they be counted?
Because you have to be on the unemployment roll to be counted.
No, but if there's somebody out there looking, whether you're an offender, an ex-offender,
whatever, they're not evaluated in the.
You think not?
They're not. I mean, how do you get on? How do we get the unemployment rate? We get the unemployment rate by the people that have been laid off, and
so it's higher. We don't know what it is, but
right.
It's higher than 10.3. Could be 20. Could be 30%.
Right.
And African Americans disproportionately are unemployed relative to whites. There may be more whites who are unemployed, but disproportionate. African Americans are disproportionately unemployed. That would be a fact, right?
That's a fact.
And that's a fact probably because African Americans disproportionately have fewer years of education and schooling than whites.
That's a
on
fact.
average.
Yes.
Those are facts.
That's right.
We just deal in facts.
That's right.
So you, with Shawn Ford, what would you like to do to improve the quality of education in the 7th Congressional District, especially among low-income people, which in large part, the district is about 2/3, 60% or so, African American, about 30% white, something like that, right?
That's right.
Okay. So among low-income people, which will be disproportionately African American, how would you improve the quality of education?
We have to make sure that we have more options for students in the 7th Congressional District. We have to make sure that we include business, the business community, in helping improve education in the 7th Congressional District. We have to make sure that we work with all partners to improve our communities as well, because we can't always say that it's the schools, the principals, and the teachers that's making our schools fail. It's the community that the schools are in as well.
Well, that would help, but a lot of times, as you know, your own background.
Yes.
What's about your own background? You started out, your mother was an unwed teenage mother, right?
Right.
Okay. And you were raised in large part by your grandmother, right?
That's right.
Moved around a bit.
Yes.
Started out in Cabrini Green.
Yes.
Went out to the west side in Austin, right?
Yes.
House burned down, spent some time in Inglewood, right?
Yes.
But you went to private schools, didn't you?
That's right.
Where'd you go from from 1st grade to 8th grade?
Our Lady Help of Christians on the west side of Chicago.
Catholic school.
Catholic.
Where'd you go to high school? Another Catholic school?
Weber.
Private school.
Yes.
Pretty well educated. You really are, right?
Well,
probably better educated than if you'd gone to public schools, don't you think?
Well, it depends. You know, I don't.
Well, it depends, but on average, on those public schools in those areas in which you were going to school, the Catholic schools, private schools, were probably on average better than the public schools.
I would say
in those
on
areas.
average,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you caught a break.
I caught a break because of hard work from my adopted mother, which is my grandmother.
Yeah. Because she taught you something about hard work.
Yes.
Right. You kind of follow this Barack Obama model because he was raised by his grandmother.
Yes.
Who happened, and grandfather, who happened to be white.
Right.
Okay.
That's not in my blood.
That's not in your blood.
Right.
It didn't really matter.
Right.
We're learning a racial lesson here. The important thing is he had parents and grandparents, Obama, who cared about him. You had grandparents who cared about you.
Yes.
And they motivate you to learn something about hard work, right?
Yes.
We need that to be coming out of our schools, because sometimes kids who have similar circumstances to you may not catch a break and may not have a grandparent who's going to teach them that.
That's right, but you know, not only...
So it'd be better if we could have grandparents, better if we could have parents, but we don't always have that. So you got to get schools that work in all ways, right?
You know, I think that schools, you know, we can't make schools the everything, the alpha and the omega. You know, we cannot have parents subcontracting all their duties to the schools.
No, but sometimes there aren't parents, and then there are grandparents, and maybe the grandparents aren't capable. So we got to have those schools where needed do as much as they can.
As much as they can.
Sometimes it's not needed. Somebody's got parents, they got grandparents, they're doing fine. The kids go home, they get drilled on spelling, on reading.
Right.
But when that doesn't happen, the schools need to step in.
Step in. We can't have schools act as parents. We have to have schools act in the capacity of educating, and families must support the students when they come home. I used to teach, and I understand that we only have a limited time in that classroom to teach. And we do the assignments, we go over the assignments with the kids, and we need parents at home and the community at large to work with these kids so that they could reinforce what they learned in school.
Now look, I know a lot of education is determined state and local, not necessarily a federal issue. But the feds can inspire.
Yes.
Brock's doing that now. You can inspire people. His Secretary of Education, Artie Duncan, big believer in charter schools. He can inspire more charter schools. They can use the lever of federal funds to say, you folks innovate, you give more choice, charter schools and otherwise, we'll give you more money.
$2 billion right now coming from the...
So look, point blank, Barack Obama, you know, his kids, they had school choice.
Yes.
When he lived here, he sent them to the lab school. He didn't send them to Ray Street School. Maybe he could have in Hyde Park, but he didn't. Okay? He exercised choice. Reverend Jackson, he exercised choice. He sent Jesse Jr. to St. Albans, the most exclusive place, private school probably in the country, certainly in D.C. Would you like to give, we spend now in the city of Chicago, I don't realize this, we spend about at least $15,000 per kid per year. People who doubt that, it's a $6 billion budget, 400,000 students, divide one into the other, my math says $15,000 per kid per year. Take that $15,000, give it to the parents in the 7th Congressional District. If you could, I know you got to go through a legal apparatus. Give them school vouchers, give them school choice. You'd sign on to that today?
School choice is very important in the 7th CD and across the state, you know. And, you know, my style of government is not to totally take the matter in my hands immediately. That's a serious...
People need to know where you're going.
They need to know, they need to help me, and they need to help me make my decision.
Okay, $15,000 here. We're going to put this in our backpack. We're going to see if Shawn's going to take the backpack. This is the test here, where regular viewers would know. Take the backpack or not. You know, it's kind of like, let's make a deal.
Right.
All right, so we got 15,000 here, 400,000 students in the city of Chicago. I don't know how many in the 7th Congressional District. Every parent in the 7th Congressional District, every parent in the city of Chicago gets a backpack. They get choice. Strap the backpack on the kid. If the parents and the kid decide they want to send that kid to a private school, out goes the backpack, out goes the kid, out goes the cash, and it goes to a private school where they think they can do better. If they want to stay in the public school, keep the kid there and he'll stay safe. You want to take that backpack and then give it out to the parents?
Well, you can't just...
Yes or no?
You cannot just give away taxpayers' dollars. The Constitution of Illinois says that we must provide public education for all students.
So you're going to go on that.
And so what we have to do is make sure we first do as the Constitution says and adequately fund education.
If you could get past that, if I could guarantee you that is constitutional in Illinois, we know it's constitutional in the United States. We haven't had that tested really here in Illinois. But in the United States, June 27th, 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court said in the Supreme Court case, school vouchers are constitutional. No barrier in terms of separation of church and state, so forth. So, if you can get past that, would you give the parents the choice?
If I get past constitutionality?
In Illinois. If I told you it's constitutional and you believe me, then you would give them the choice?
You know, it's up to the people of the 7th Congressional District.
All right, so you're not going to take the lead on that?
You know, I would take the lead of quality education, and I would also represent the people of the 7th Congressional District.
You going to give them more charter schools?
You know, I think I'm in favor of charter schools.
Okay.
Yes, I am definitely, yes. Okay. But we have to be careful of spending taxpayers' dollars.
The war. The war in Iraq. Would you have supported that back in 2002?
President Barack Obama said that there was no need to support the war in Iraq.
He said it was a dumb war. You agree?
Well, I'm
That's
looking
what he said. He said it was a dumb war.
You know, I hope something was accomplished from that.
Okay. But you wouldn't have voted to authorize the president to take military action back in 2002. You wouldn't have voted to authorize President Bush to take military action in Iraq in 2002. Is that what you're telling me?
Now that the intelligence tells us that there were no weapons of mass destruction.
Right. If you knew what you knew back in 2002, what most people knew.
With the intelligence that...
The intelligence was faulty, but it was saying that there were weapons. Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. If you knew that, would you have voted to authorize the president to take military action?
You know, you probably would have to protect the American people.
Right now, Obama's going into Afghanistan, not going into, but he's doubled the number of troops in Afghanistan since he's been president of the United States. Is he taking the right path? Would you back him up on that?
Yes, definitely. You know, I would like for the president to get more of the international community to send more troops to Afghanistan. You know, we can't do it all ourselves.
Okay. Healthcare?
Yes.
Right now, you know, Congress, the House has a program, several bills, the Senate has a bill. President Obama apparently favors major health care reform, one of those bills, some combination of those bills. People say it could cost $1 trillion, but there would be reform, improvement, universal health care. Generally, you'd go with the president on that health care reform?
We need health care reform.
And generally, you'd go with one of those bills or some combination of the bills that are before Congress right now?
Something that will reform health care, yes. We need it.
Right. Ex-offenders have been big for Congressman Danny Davis, right?
Yes.
Ex-offender programs to assist ex-offenders.
Yes.
You're going to continue that tradition?
I'm going to continue it.
You tried to do that in the state legislature?
Yes.
The 3 years you've been there?
Yes.
You've got programs for ex-offenders?
We have programs.
Have you passed that legislation?
Yes, we passed it.
What did you pass?
I passed a program to allow ex-offenders to fund their own second chance loan program, which means that they would be able to borrow money from their own fund from the Second Chance Act that Congressman Davis passed, that was also signed into law by President Bush, the Second Chance Act, which will allow microloans for ex-offenders to start their own business.
Is it working? Are they getting loans?
You know,
ex-offenders?
The program is still being put in progress. It passed, and so we have to make sure that it works and that these ex-offenders will be able to contribute to.
What about people who haven't been offenders? They're just having a tough time, low income, not a lot of education. You want to help them too?
We have to help everyone.
If you had to choose between helping an ex-offender and helping a person who hadn't offended but needs help, if you had to do one or the other, who are you going with?
I'm defending justice for all. You can't
pick and choose.
You have to pick the best person for the job.
Yeah.
And there are ex-offenders that are.
But when you start talking about giving breaks to ex-offenders, are you in a sense not giving? Are you discriminating against non-offenders?
You know, that's a good question. That's what people ask. That's why some of the Republicans say, you know, we cannot vote for a legislation that's just for ex-offenders. But the good thing about the loan program, this was a bipartisan program, and it was approved by the Republicans. We had Republicans on board because it wasn't preference. It was a program that that the ex-offenders pay out of their parole fund.
What about enterprise zones? You knew about enterprise zones?
Yes.
You favor them?
You know, I'm in favor of community.
If you lower taxes so businesses come in, jobs come in, favor them?
I'm in favor of programs that strengthen communities. That's what we need more in a 7 CD across the board in Austin and Lindale and Garfield and Inglewood and Maywood and Bellwood. We have to build these communities up so that we can increase the tax, the revenues into the state. And that's how we're going to come out of the recession.
Should Walmart be allowed to come into the 7th Congressional District? Are they already there?
You know, if Walmart,
is Walmart there?
Walmart is in, yes.
Yeah. You favor that?
I favor, you know, putting people to work, and I favor that, you know, that we hold these people accountable and make them invest more in communities and not just come in and shut other businesses down.
Well, that's free enterprise. Some businesses are more efficient, they're going to do well, others are going to shut down.
Right.
Alderman Fredrina Lyle, she doesn't want Walmart in, but she wants to protect the small business at the expense of her constituents being able to buy goods for lower prices, at the expense of her constituents being able to have jobs and those around them. Is she right?
You know, she's right, because there are people in her automatic ward that believes that. And there are people that believe that she should put a Walmart in. She has to represent her district and what they're asking her to do.
Yeah. What's the 7th Congressional District? Give us an idea.
The 7th Congressional District is a diverse district, and it's one that I would love to represent.
Just tell us about it geographically.
So it goes from the lake all the way down to 47th, south on 47th, and north to Armitage, and then it goes through the cities, downtown, west side of Chicago, Garfield, Lindale, Austin, through Oak Park. We have Maywood, Bellwood, Broadview, parts of Proviso, Hillside. Those are great areas that we can all come together and work to improve the quality of life.
A lot of unemployment. Some people say high minimum wages make people unemployed because they could work for a lower wage and have a job, but the minimum wages drive business away from hiring them. Do you agree? Can the minimum wage be too high?
No, not at all.
You don't agree with that?
No. The minimum wage can't be too high because these are the people that work very hard in our society.
So you're a union guy. You think unions help? Some people say unions cause wages to be above the market wage, and therefore people become unemployed. You disagree with that?
You know what, I'm a union guy, I'm a people's guy. I want the unions to represent not only, I need the unions to be more in line with what's good for the people, what's good for what the Constitution says, justice for all.
What about cap and trade? Do you know about cap and trade?
Yeah.
The president says that's a good idea. You're going to cap carbon emissions. People can trade that. Others say it's going to cost a great deal. Business is going to be driven away to other countries. People in the United States lose jobs. Who's right, Obama or his critics?
The president is right. You know,
you would support cap and trade?
I would support cap and trade.
You don't think people are going to lose jobs in the 7th Congressional District?
You know, I believe that we have to make sure that we understand where it got us to this point. I do believe that we're in a situation where we have to preserve energy and that there is global warming.
And that takes priority over jobs at this point?
It doesn't take priority over jobs. I think that we can still have, create jobs in the 7th Congressional District through the green technology.
You think so? That's going to offset that? That's
going to offset it because we have to bring green technology in the 7th Congressional District.
Abortion. People say the African American community is actually fairly culturally conservative, and yet most of the politicians, Democrats who come out of that area, tend to be quite liberal on abortion. They want to have 1,000% pro-choice, give a woman an entire choice about having an abortion. You agree?
The Constitution right now says that a woman has a right. I believe that what we have to do as a society, we failed these communities where abortions are very high. And we have to do everything that we can to prevent.
But do you support that woman's right to choose?
You know, I support
some
life.
People like to, well, if you support life, some people would say they'd support a constitutional amendment that protects the embryo, that would ban abortion. Would you go down that road?
You know, that's something that I haven't had a chance to go across the 7th Congressional District to find out.
You're not taking a position on that?
Well, you know, I'm a Catholic. And I believe that we have to protect life and preserve life.
But you're not ready to say you would like to overturn Roe v. Wade?
Oh no, not at all.
Not ready to say
you
that.
know.
What about guns? You know, some people say, a lot of people say, more guns, less crime. If you could have a gun in your home, maybe that would deter people who might want to come in an unsafe area and do harm to you. Mayor Daley says no, he doesn't want any guns in the home or anywhere else. What do you say? I
say that when you talk about abortions and you talk about guns, it's all the violence of guns and abortion, it's all a stem of a failed society. People that are...
But should a person be allowed to own a gun in his or her home?
Well, the Second Amendment
says that. But in Chicago we ban it. Is Daley wrong?
I think that society is wrong because there are crimes committed with these guns.
Shawn, should a person have a right to own a gun?
Well,
we're going to continue to speak as the credits roll, but I very much want to thank our guest, Shawn Ford, State Rep. Shawn Ford. Thanks so much for coming. We're going to, we'll try to have you back so we can cover some of the issues that we haven't yet covered. There are 5 candidates in this race.
Yes.
Senator Ricky Hendon's in this race. Representative Collins is in this race,
yes.
apparently. Who else are we leaving out?
I don't know.
All right, you're not going to help me. Alderman Dixon, I think. So get in touch if you haven't been here. Darlena Barnett, right?
Right.
All right, maybe Bob Ferrietti. All right, so we've gone through abortion, we've gone through guns, gays. Same-sex marriage, would you support that?
I support civil unions right now in the state legislature.
All right, but you wouldn't support same-sex marriage?